Okay, so this is me starting at this page with kind of a test stream here. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do in the future. It looks like Google Hangouts is going away, something there's something out new. But let's get started on this page. So this is page 8 of the Law Comic Book, and I am working on it today. Basically, the idea is that I've got several different comics I've kind of worked on here and there over the years, and so I'm collecting them, finishing them, and then I'm going to put out an anthology with these. Some of them are very short stories, some of them are typical comic length. So I'm hoping to have a pretty nice sized book when I'm ready for when I'm done, and I'll possibly do a little campaign or just do a direct sell through Amazon or something. So the concept here is that about 15 years ago, I did a comic. I started a comic called, at that time I was calling Heroes of the Code. And about, 13, 14 years later, I decided to take the, you can see here, very sketched out versions I had here and actually turn it back to a story. So originally I started, and I did about the first, 5 or 6 pages, and it was a serious attempt at doing a comic book. And then at some point, I think I just got bored with drawing a comic or something. And so then it became a series of pinups that were part of the story. So I was trying to tell a story with pinups mostly. And I decided that, of course, this wasn't anything worth publishing. So I sat in my drawer for a long time. And I've always liked these characters. This is my career team here. And see here, this is the actual one of my cover design for it. I might redo this, I don't know. But anyway, these are the main characters here. We've got Uriel. We have Ringmaster, Daisy Woman, Nuberon, Sakami, Matter Girl, and this is Lightning, basically. I'm looking for a Spanish word for lightning. So these 7 characters are together a team. And my original concept was these people had heard of each other but never met. So this was actually their first time meeting together. This has changed. I'm going to be adapting the story. So this is actually, they've met before, but now they're actually working on setting up a team. So what they're doing is they finished a special training program for superheroes, and they've been out there for about 3 years now. And so they're catching up with each other, finding out what have you been up to the last 3 years, and how is this going to help our team. So that's what they're doing. So what they've done is they're actually meeting at a restaurant slash bar. Originally, I think my concept for this was they were meeting like in Deep Ellum or something in Dallas, because when I was growing up, I used to go there if you wanted to go to like a club or something. Kind of sketchy part of town, but they're teenagers slash early college students. It was an exciting place to go to. So they meet, and so here's the main character, John. And John comes to this. Here's Reeves right here. Bass Reeves Johnson or something, what we call him. And his name is actually based on a real person who was a famous lawman in the Oklahoma territories. He was a slave, and he got his freedom with the under emancipation, and eventually became a lawman, and an extremely amazing lawman. So much so that actually the character Lone Ranger was based off of him. They changed his color, the Lone Ranger, to a white guy because at that time in television in the 50s, nobody really wanted to see or believe a black man could be a lawman. And Bass Reeves was an incredible person. We're seeing a kind of Clint Eastwood movie where Clint Eastwood has to escort three prisoners back to town so they can stand trial, and nearly kills them. Well, Bass did the same thing when he had 14 prisoners, no problem. So you can see this guy was an extremely amazing person. So I've always wanted to have a character based on him. So for this purpose of this comic, I made Bass here. He is he's one of the main characters, and his superhero identity is Ringmaster. And my original inspiration for calling him Ringmaster was actually the Hobbit movie. You know, one ring to rule them all. So, I mean, effectively a ringmaster. Now, I of course also when I first created the characters, they're more or less my version of the Justice League of America, and then I went along and made some changes so they weren't the Justice League of America. But he was sort of my Green Lantern character, and so I called him Ringmaster. I confected. You know, he was kind of like Green Lantern, also the Hobbit story. I gave him rings, the ring you wear on your finger, but these metallic rings he has as part of his costume. And those actually help him control his power. He doesn't need them to have power. He innately has a lot of power in the rings control different aspects of the energy. So this is Bass right here. And then, so John is Uriel, which you know on the cover. And I'm just taking you through real quick to give you kind of an idea who these people are before I start doodling on page 8. And who knows, maybe we won't get to page 8, maybe it'll just be me giving you sort of introduction to who these people are. But these have been sort of my characters that I created since I was a kid. So here, John is walking off and Bass is following him. And he probably says, "Hey, what's going on?" You check out, "Hey, who said that?" Okay, not the most. I'm actually considering redrawing some of these pages. We'll see. And so, hey, John, Bass, nice to meet you. The girl's nice over here. This is, again, this was back when I was having them meeting for the first time. I developed a story way beyond that where they actually, you know, Bass and John grew up as kids together. And these other kids, these other people actually went through a similar superhero training program as John and Bass. And so they're aware of each other from that. So they're not really meeting each other for the first time. They're actually more of a reunion. They're meeting each other for at least a second or more time. So they decided to meet up at this place. So then this is Matter Girl here, and she is turned out to be John's girlfriend in the series as well. And she's very excited about what's going on tonight. And then we have 6. Their letter was here. Oh, who are these people? And here are the 4 other members. So these 2, Maria, John, and Bass, plus these 4 people equal the group that we're talking about now. I originally had these people called the Hero of the Code. Eventually, what I came to is they set up a sort of marshals unit, international marshals service for service all over the world dealing with superhero issues. But they're too young at this point. At this point, they're just getting together trying to be like the new kids on the block, the new superheroes. They're highly trained, but they have no real world experience. So they're here to have real world experience. So I call it the law because that's the direction the book is going in, is that there's a recognition in the world that you need people, you know, supervising and controlling in some way and holding people accountable for who have superpowers, because it's just too easy to kill people and hurt people. So they're actually going to fill that role. And in this universe, it's not that they've never tried this before. It's just that they've never had a group powerful enough, enthusiastic enough about it. Most of the mass vigilantes always like a certain level of independence, and they didn't want to mix with the law. Some of them had felt the law was ineffective. Some of them just felt they were powerful enough that they could, enforce their own idea of justice on people. So here, this marshal service, the law, they're actually the idea behind them is that they're going to try to work within a basic, international concept of law regarding superheroes. And I guess you could say they sort of work with a UN type body, which I'm not a big fan of the UN, but it helps with the story to have something like that. It makes sense, more sense than maybe international, like Interpol. I mean, they're essentially Interpol for superheroes is what they are. And it helps to have these separated out. Interpol would deal with more of your run-of-the-mill human criminals, and they in this group deals with criminals who have superpowers. So we have Liz, and then of course I just finished this one yesterday. This is page 7. They're having a discussion, and so who's going on? Okay, let's talk about what we did for the last 3 years. I think we should look at this girl over here. And she's like, okay, I'm ready to go. And so page 8 is actually her telling her story, hopefully with the one page of what she's been doing for the last 8 years. And I'm sorry, the last 3 years. And it's basically she'll be running around being a superhero. Actually, more of that, Sagami is actually from India. And I wanted a medical person on the group, and so it just happened to be her. And people are probably shaking their heads and saying, oh, stereotypes. But I kind of came to the idea that she was Indian, but she was a doctor separately from each other. It just happened to work out that way. The group is made up of people from all over, from all sorts of different nationalities. So we have Bass, who's obviously African American. We've got Maria. I think she's just she's probably from Europe or something. One. Okay. We have Amazing Woman, who is Japanese. This is India. Then you have Lightning and Uberon, and they're both from Mexico. The two are actually brothers. Lightning is the older of the two, and Uberon. It's kind of funny. Originally, years ago as a kid, I created these two brothers, and I called them Thunder and Lightning. And I thought, oh, what a clever idea having brothers who would be superheroes, and one would be Thunder, one would be Lightning. And then I found out that Teen Titans had a Thunder and Lightning, and I think it's another Thunder and Lightning, and they happen to be brothers as well. And so I thought, okay. So I also wanted to have these characters have more of an international feel. They're going to become a team of international superheroes. They should probably be from more than just North America. They should probably be from other parts of the world. So we have John Uriel representing America, and I guess effectively so is Bass. Bass and John are Americans. Amazing Woman is Japanese, and Nubero, which is representing sort of Asia in general. Nubero and Lightning, name to be determined later. They're representing South America. India is representing South Asia, and then Matador here is representing Europe. So it's a pretty much I guess the only way that I could make this team any more diverse. I guess I'd have to throw in someone from the Middle East on here, and I don't have that character. So who knows? Maybe we'll have somebody from the Middle East at some point coming here and they'll join the team. But for now, this is a pretty good, I think, international set. And what inspired me to do an international was that when I originally created these characters when I was a kid, I think I started creating them in 8th grade. And his Uriel's originally was Ultraman. And I realized at the time that there was already an Ultraman. It was the evil Superman from the antimatter universe originally, pre-crisis. No, it was post-crisis. It was antimatter. It was a different Earth, I believe, Earth 3 or something. And but anyway, Uriel's powers aren't like Superman. He has some powers like Superman. He has other powers that are very different than Superman's. But what inspired me was I had a friend of mine in high school and he was a black guy, and we used to draw together and whatnot. And he kept looking at my characters and he goes, "Man, he goes, you have any non-white characters?" And I said, "I hadn't thought about it. That was just, I had really never thought about it." He said, "Well, I think it's kind of boring if everybody's just a white person." And I thought about it. I said, that's right. I mean, there is a certain exoticness that you have from different parts of the world. We have these different cultures being represented that creates, I think, more interest. Um, and so, I mean, ever since that conversation with my friend, I've always sought to have a mixture of people from different cultures and backgrounds, and races and whatever else. Because I thought it made things more interesting. Now you notice the girls here are all wearing skirts and full body clothing, and you see a lot of superhero comics where the women are wearing basically like one or two piece bathing suit, and that's effectively their costume. They might throw on a cape or something, or armor on their, armor boots and stuff, but pretty much their costume. And when I was in high school, I saw this. And I hit a point because when I was younger, I had, I guess early college. I sort of went on a spiritual journey, and I got into Judaism. And as a result of getting into Judaism, sort of my values began to change. And one of my values was that women ought to be respected. A certain level of respect you should have for women, and that's born out of the fact that you should have respect for your mother and for your sister and for other women. And so when I saw the '90s, the trend of superhero get up was swimsuits. I just said, it's just objectifying women. I'm not such a fan of that. And so that was one of the driving forces that actually pushed me away from comic books. I love comics because I didn't like the objectification of women in the comic books. So I did. I more or less left comics for that, and then also because I was still on my spiritual journey, and so I was spending my time really immersed in that. And I was immersed in that for about 10 years before I came back and tried drawing a comic book. And the comic book, my first comic I tried to draw when I came back was actually Heroes of the Code, which now we call it the Law, and it was just kind of I was treating it more like a hobby. I hadn't drawn in almost 10 years when I went back to it, and so you can tell from the artwork, it's kind of pretty bad here. The last 5 years, I've been kind of working on developing my skill set, getting it higher and better. And so even this cover, which I did about 2 or 3 years ago, is okay, but I know I could do a much better job, more creative, and I probably will redo it. But I still like it. It's good. It's good to represent. Anyway, so I love comics. I wasn't so interested in comics as far as the things I just didn't like about it. And when I got back into comics, I looked at it and I looked at the industry, and the industry is pretty much the same as when I left it. And I just thought to myself, I really don't want to draw comic book characters. I work for companies where it's about objectifying women and exploiting them in that way. And so I just sort of started working on my own characters, and I didn't really have any real intention of publishing anything. I thought about it every now and then. But what ended up happening invariably was that I got distracted by various things. And I just didn't see a way of being able to work in comics economically and doing something with it. And what you do here for a second, I'm talking a lot, but I'm not drawing anything. That's probably pretty boring. So I apologize for that. So I'm just going to turn this off and just do a little sketch layer while I'm chit-chatting. I'm going to go ahead and pick out, let's do a blue sketching color. But anyway, so I didn't really see much of a change on that. Oddly enough, the funny thing is, if you notice, In all those superhero movies, the women they always change the costumes because as much as the guys like to see women in these bathing suits for the costume, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work as a practical superhero costume. So so anyway, um, so and then it's really kind of funny because I don't know if some of you are keep up with some of this stuff, but there's a backlash against the politicization of comic books last couple of years, and I was really interested in that because I've seen throughout most forms of media where politics has really pushed its head ahead, in front of the entertainment. And comics and movies are generally about entertainment. They're not really about teaching, specifically teaching kind of movie or comic book. But you know, and all those things have their place. But anyway, I was kind of turned on by the idea of making comics fun again, getting politics out. And so I was initially attracted to a group called comicsgate because it seemed like what they claimed to represent was you know getting comics back to being fun, and I certainly appreciated that. You know, I always wanted comics to be fun. That was what got me interested in it to begin with as a kid. It was really fun. But the comicsgate thing is I don't know. I don't really know what to say about it. I had some negative experiences with it myself. Um, it's a problem that I see that people talk about racism and they talk about discrimination, talk about all those things. Uh, I think there's a certain resistance I have personally to the idea that white people are like that. But I've seen over the years that it's true. But I've also seen that it's not just white people. I've seen a lot of people are racist. Have you ever read any Japanese manga or read any Chinese light novels? You see there's a lot of racism coming from those sources as well. And there's racism in general. I mean, anytime human beings form groups, what ends up happening is that they always set themselves to help them, I guess, distinguish who they are. They set themselves off in opposition to other groups, and sometimes their identity of who they are is, well, we're not them, and that's kind of what it sometimes comes down to. So, I guess I found it appealing that it seemed like one of the messages of Comics Game was that, look, we're not about um, labels, we're not about identity politics, we're not about anything but making good comic books. And I was very excited about that. And I said, yeah, because that's really what we ought to be doing. Well, anyway, so I got involved, and I'll say that a lot of the people who were involved with it, I felt were pretty nice people. I don't really have a lot of anything bad to say, but I will say that there are certain elements. There are certainly racist elements that kind of popped up, and you'll find these racist elements pop up no matter what you do or what you're part of. I remember going to a conservative talk show host thing when I was a kid, and it was very there's some anti-Semitic people. Not everybody was. There were some people there who were anti-Semitic, and they were conspiracy theorists, and they were trying to blame a lot of stuff on the Jews. And I always found this kind of interesting that conspiracy theorists seem to tend to be anti-Semitic for some reason, and racist in general. I don't know why that is. Um, but anyway, so I'm certainly aware of all of this right now. That I mean, I kind of experienced this as well. I remember from Kate, and I was enjoying myself. I connected with some artists who were really good guys, and we had a lot of fun. And unfortunately, I ran into a situation where I had to wife lost her job, and she's been the one supporting the family while I worked on my artistic skill. So an agreement we came to, and I'd work on my art ability, and then I would try to make a living as an artist, and then relieve her from that burden of having to work. And so that's more or less what we've been doing. But anyway, I was having a long time. So when she lost her job, and we were here in Israel, and it's not always so easy to find work here. And so so I seriously started looking for a job as well. And so that really, took away the amount of time I could spend live streaming, and I sort of disappeared. And I didn't mean to do that. It just sort of happened. I sort of disappeared. But I say I didn't mean for it to happen, but I was also kind of discouraged. And what discouraged me was that I had unintentionally let some people on my stream who were either very kind of ugly in general. One guy was anti-Semite. And I don't know if he knows I'm a Jew or not, but he came on there and he started saying stuff about Jews. And I ended up deleting the whole thing. I was so surprised by it. I didn't exactly know what to say to him, so I just sort of let it go. And then my wife was about to pull the computer out of the wall, so I ended up just deleting that podcast. And it really forced me to also sort of think about what am I doing, and what are my values that I'm trying to increase here. But it's certainly not racism, certainly not anti-Semitism. I mean, I'm a Jew. Why would I want to do anti-Semitism? I would be anti-Semitism against myself or my kids. But I felt like there were some things that Comicsgate that were right. And to be honest with you, I don't think that this is a normal representation of people who are in Comicsgate, or normal representation of the people that I spent time with. A lot of great guys who were just, very selfless, and gave their time and energy and helped me improve my artistic ability. You have Todd, or at Ignition, just took my artwork and just went through for about 3 or 4 hours, and breaking down the areas I needed to improve on. And I mean, after that meeting with him, my artistic level just shot through the roof. And that was on him. There was nothing to gain from doing that. I wasn't paying him. I don't have it's not like I'm a particularly popular guy. I couldn't bring him any fame. He's just a good guy like that. And so he made his appearance. I mean, he kind of appeared and he helped me a lot there, and I was very grateful for him. And then you had John Dillard, a wise guy. He's a truck driver, very nice guy, very very kind of one of those guys who has a lot of horse sense. He's got a real intelligence, born from just life experience, and I appreciate a lot of his comments. He gave me some great advice as well. There were just a lot of those guys. Some of them were Christians, some of them were atheists, some of them were whatever, and they were all really good people. And the Christians put up with me being anti-Christian. But I'm anti-Christian. It's just the conversations kind of went in an anti-missionary direction, and but for me, it's fun. If the other party thinks it's fun, the other party doesn't think it's fun. It's not fun for anybody. But the intellectual stimulation is what's fun. Not hurting people's feelings or upsetting them, making them question their lives or anything like that. But anyway, so I was very conflicted because on the one hand, I very much appreciated and liked these guys. And on the other hand, the Comicsgate thing, brought the exposure to a very dark side as well. But having known those guys, certainly there was more of people like them than there were of the people who were Semitic and racist. So I had a more positive viewpoint of the Comicsgate people, I think. But also looking on the left side of things, I've seen a lot of racism coming up from the left, and a lot of anti-Semitism coming from there. And I mean, to me, it doesn't make any sense. I don't like. I really don't enjoy in any way racism. I don't think it's beneficial for anyone. I think it's a shame. We're all human beings, and we all have something to contribute. And when we work together, it's much more interesting than just having. I mean, why do we make movies about samurais? Why do we make movies about ninjas and Genghis Khan? Stories of Africa and stories of India. Why do we like Arabian Nights, right? The story of, why do we like Latin? Why do we like these things? It's because it's interesting. People who don't share my background are in a way exotic, and they have a way of looking at the world that I've never looked at the world in. And what that means for me is that it means it's an opportunity for me to expand who I am out quite a bit, and um, that has been um, my experience, and I really enjoyed that. And it doesn't matter what their political views are; they still have the experience. But anyway, so I noticed that there are problems on the left, problems on the right. People professing both ideologies had some of the same problems. So what do you do? What do you do with that? And I've been really, I've been looking for a job, but I've also been taking time to think about this. Um, I think, you know, the answer is number one, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Number two, kind of determine what it is that why am I here? What am I trying to accomplish? If I'm going to continue working and trying to get, work in comics, what am I doing here? What are my goals? And my goals are effectively, I want to, I want comics that people in general can enjoy. Family-friendly comics, comics that don't objectify women, comics that you can feel comfortable reading with your child, boy or girl, uh, comics that give us heroes that everyone can identify with or root for, whatever your background is. I mean, that's really what I hope to create. Um, you know, whether people like what I created or not is a different story. I might be willing, but they may not be. But look. Uh, anyway, so here I am, and the financial situation has improved. My wife has found a job, and we're moving from the Haifa area to a place called Khana area, where she's going to be working, and we're moving somewhere over there, and it'll be digital marketing, which is what she did in her previous job. But it's also giving me the freedom to get back here and once again make an attempt at making this comic book dream a reality if possible. And but here I am. I'm back doing this my second recent video, and I'm working on this crew here. Now, the reason I'm working on them, if those of you who remember me before I left to go try and find a job, probably remember that I was working on a book called Inner World. And Inner World was a story that I was very excited about, and I'm still excited about it. and I'm still working on it. In fact. But what's happened is that I kind of took a look at the comic book state of affairs, or the state of the union, if you will, for comic books, and I realized that there were lots of people trying to produce comics. And if you remember, the initial reaction to Comicsgate was very positive, and people just sort of supported just about anything. Um, but that euphoria has disappeared, and people are looking once again, like they should, for value for the buck. How can they? But what's going to be the most valuable thing for them? How do they make their dollar go further? And one of the things I never liked when I stopped creating comics, I stopped collecting comics a long time ago because for one very simple reason, I couldn't afford that anymore. It wasn't worth it for me to spend $5 on a comic book that took me 30 seconds to read, and I just had no interest in that. They weren't even interesting stories. They had the level of good stories had really gone down. I just got picky, but um, you know, be that as it may, I I just stopped collecting them. I don't like them like I used to. The one thing that really I guess cheesed me off, I say, was the storyline of the. I love the World War Hulk storyline. And it was one of the best stories to be produced, I think, in a long time. And Hulk World. I'm sorry, Hulk World was, and it was the story of everybody thinks the Hulk's too dangerous, and they shoot him off into space. And he comes upon this planet called Sakara, and he ends up becoming a gladiator, which is what a perfect use for the Hulk, being a gladiator. And anyway, he uh, he does this, and he eventually leads a revolt, overthrows the current empire, and becomes the king of the world. And it just really seemed to me a fitting end to the Hulk storyline because it was a little bit like you ever saw Conan the Barbarian. The first one starts off with Conan sitting on his throne, and all the stories coming next were stories of how he got the throne. And with Hulk World, what you had was you had this person who's been tortured for 50 years in comics has finally found a place to call home. He's the king. He has a queen. He has loyal subjects, and it's effectively for him a happy ending. And being an American, I like happy ending stories. I'm not Russian. I don't like everything having being ultimately depressing. I say that. Hey, what are you talking about? Viking cultures? What are you saying? Well, I've had a lot of Russian friends. And, I've come to learn that Russians innately are very sad. No matter how much they smile, there's a sad face underneath. And anyway, so just a good ball. So at any rate, so then they do this fantastic ending to the whole storyline. They had a chance to create a legacy character, Hulk Jr. or something. And instead, what they did was they gave us World War Hulk. And I was so ticked off by that story. I can't tell you. I mean, it was just like, what the heck are you guys doing? And so it ruined that perfect ending for the Hulk, and now he's back to random adventures again. And that's the problem with the comic industry. The reason that people are leaving it isn't just because of the political problems. It's not just because of you know, other forms of media have become more popular. The real reason is because there's a lack of creativity in comic books. They're just the stories aren't that interesting. You know, how many times are we going to kill the characters off? How many times are we everybody runs superhero superpowers, take them away, and kill them off and bring them back? You know, I mean, you know, Peter Parker's parents went from being regular people who died to, you know, super scientists slash spies. So, you know, how long, how often can you do that? And I think the answer is, well, let's see here. Superman marks the beginning of the comic book industry as we know it today, 1938. We go forward about 81 years, and that's where we are today. 81 years later, comics are losing steam, and that is because of the lack of creativity. You can't let characters go. You won't kill off Superman. You won't kill off Batman. You won't kill off Wonder Woman. Or you won't give them new things. You won't have them pass the mantle. You know, when Batman's back was broken back in the early '90s, that's when Robin should have become Batman. Dick Grayson should have become Batman. He should have passed on Nightwing to the kid who was there. Personally, my favorite Robin, I can't remember his name. Tim something, I think. And I liked him better as Robin than Dick Grayson and Jason Todd. He texted me, I think they killed him off. It's too bad. But he'll be back. You know, they always come back. So anyway, so they really killed it for me. So I really stopped. That was my official break with collecting comics, was with the World War Hulk, because as soon as I picked it up, I knew no one's gonna die. There are no lasting ramifications for the story. And somehow mysteriously they're gonna forget they shot the Hulk into space. And he's gonna mysteriously forget about it. And everyone's gonna be friends again. And it'll just be you know, business as usual. And I couldn't take it. I said, forget it. I can't invest myself in a story that never will end. And so, very much when it comes to me creating my own characters, it's with the idea that as much as I like them, their stories end at some point. And that's the only way to do it. I mean, that's the only way you can make some of them human. You can make some of them like mortal. A few of them. You can't make all of them mortal. You can make some of them longer lives. You do that. Guys who have like healing factors, whatnot, sure. Why not? But you know, eventually characters have to die either through natural causes or accidents or something. You know, human beings are given a limited time on this planet. Yes, I mean, be a little real. When God set it up like that, you have a certain period of time in which when you're done. And I know comics and science fiction are really breaks from reality. We don't treat them like that. But I think that when you have characters so fantastic that they can do almost anything, it's good to give them human constraints of some sort. And one of those, the best human constraints, is mortality. And I think that this is one of the things I always appreciated about Japanese comics, is that there was usually a conclusion. It was usually, okay, this adventures goes on now to. I appreciate about Naruto, where Naruto faces his battles, and then eventually the series comes to an end. He's become the Hokage, and you know, life goes on for him. But then Naruto comes out, which is the story of his son. So Naruto's still the Hokage, but I haven't collected Naruto. I thought it was a one-off when I first saw it, so I never took it too seriously. But it's not. But I mean, those people grew up and they went on and have lives of their own, and it's the second generation now. It's their job to you know, try to, you know, be who they are, and that's very interesting. It makes the comic much more interesting. I feel like. So, um, at any rate, uh, so my philosophy on creating comics is developed over time, and I see a lot of things I don't like in the industry. And as far as the anti-comicsgate, pro-comicsgate, I don't really care about that stuff. I was initially kind of interested in the comicsgate stuff, but I see a lot more just infighting with it. I don't really. I think some of them lost their, what it was they, why they were comicsgate. They lost sort of their focus. Some of them have retained that idea, but at some point you have to shut up and make comic books. And I feel like Ethan Van Sciver, who were definitely one of the popularizers of Comicsgate, um, he at one point was going to leave, and I covered this in one of my videos. I said, he said, look, he said it's kind of like maybe it's run its course, and I think that it has. I think Comicsgate's run its course, and I think at this point, what happened is that we got to move on. Start producing comics. Comicsgate opened the door to have a much more robust indie comic um, industry. But let's embrace that. Let's embrace that. Make more interesting comics. Let's not make your standard superhero comic books like Marvel and DC. They've got that covered. If they want an undying kind of superhero, you tell their same, you tell different stories about the same character for 80 years. It's covered. Let's have more interesting concepts. Let's have superheroes who live in this world and deal with real problems, or who deal with different problems. Or let's have them live something else. Let's engage our creativity. Because there is a lot to be said for that. There are a lot of people that are very creative, and if they can just access the creativity in their heads, then fantastic. So I'm very interested in seeing that develop. I also feel like, for me as a Jew, there is some room for me to explore what a Jewish superhero be, what a non-Jewish superhero be like, one who had like definite, beliefs about God and about the world and about whatever. What would that be like? I mean, these subjects were always considered taboo in DC and Marvel. They didn't really touch those concepts. And when they did, it was always like, kind of a cartoony approach to it. Let's make Nightcrawler a priest. Why? Well, he would represent very easily visually, and you have some moral values that might be at odds or complement together. So let's do that. Oh, okay. I don't know how Catholics felt about it. I never found Nightcrawler as a priest very interesting. But definitely want to have heroes to have a moral code, but I also want to see a world. Not everybody's going to be like that. How do we keep the people who aren't like that, who don't have a moral code? How do we keep them in line? And that's the point of the common law. Law is a collective of individuals who initially set out to start their own, typical superhero group and make it work. But they realize it doesn't work because they start coming across superheroes, supervillains, who are very atypical of their expectations, and so they realize that the atypical people are actually more the typical version out there, and so they realize they need to reassess who are we? What are we doing? Why are we doing comics? And why are we doing superhero? Why don't we just become cops and things like that? They have to confront some of this stuff, and they. And I think that'll make it interesting. Is that how do they how do they confront it? How successful are they in confronting it? So the law is really kind of the. I don't know about you, but I've sat sometime in traffic, and I thought, man, what would it be like if the Hope was stuck in traffic? What would happen? Well, probably at some point he would go insane and transform the Hope and start trashing people's cars, causing all sorts of property damage, maybe kill some people. And you know, living in a world like that, superhero comic world is much scarier than the world we live in right now because the people are so powerful, you know, that if they lost control, if they gave in to their selfish desires, well, what could they do? They could destroy everything. So we need people who can stop them, who have an ethical belief in that human beings have a sacrosanct right to exist. And this is a position that you can take whether you're an atheist or a religious person, that there is a value to human life that goes beyond the value of other kinds of life on the planet. And that the only consideration for how we treat other life, I think from an atheistic standpoint, I don't know from my standpoint, but from an atheistic standpoint, might be what value do they bring to humans? How do they serve our species? Are they useful? Are they not useful? Are they pets? How do we look at things? But this also becomes the case with superpowers, what makes you seem more than human. So if you're more than human, how do you treat other human beings? That then becomes a new question as well. How are human beings treated by these people? And the law is to make sure that we have one thing that unifies everyone, and that is how we're treated under the law. Because that's the only hope that the weak individual has for survival, is that there's something stronger than the strongest person, and that stronger than the strongest person has to be somehow protected and supported and enforced. But who's going to do it? So, this is the purpose of the comic book, is to sort of to be the vehicle for exploring that aspect of comic books. Let's create heroes who recognize they have a value, they have a responsibility, not because someone in the family died, but because nobody else is strong enough to do it. That's a very, you take away, reasons of vengeance for comic book characters. What else are they doing? Why does Superman protect people? Does he ward? Does he use his powers, or does he recognize that as someone who is powerful, he has strength, and as a moral individual, he has a responsibility to use that strength to protect the rights of other people. And if they have that responsibility, don't we have that responsibility as well? Don't we as human beings have a responsibility to help other human beings more able to? And if the answer to that is yes, then the superheroes that we're designing and using, they have more interest in them. I remember, in Israel we had I think at least one comic book convention. We have a couple anime conventions, but we had one comic book convention that I've been to. It's called Icon, Israel Comic Con. It's more of a gaming event than a comic book thing, but it's got Israeli superheroes, and that buys some of the characters that I see there. But one of the Israeli comic book creators said to me, everybody in Israel has to go in the army. And because everybody in Israel is in the army, in one sense, that means they have to put their lives, on the line to serve the greater good. The greater good is, you know, family and friends and people who live in Israel. And you have to, sacrifice your life to make sure that their lives are secure. So he said that kind of reasoning. He said, look, in that case, everyone in Israel is a hero. How do you write a comic book? How do you have a superhero comic book if everybody's a hero already? So the only way you can have a superhero comic where everybody around is a hero is that they're you can only come in from like, I think, a moralistic standpoint. Their morals have to be greater. They have to have much clearer reasons for why they act and behave. Otherwise, that's the path they're going. Even if a person doesn't break the law necessarily, if they're not using their strength to help, then they've sort of broken a moral value. And if that being the case, the selfishness becomes the standard of evil, and the selflessness is the standard of good, even if people don't necessarily agree on how to arrive at those locations. Now, I also believe that there is value in looking at things from the Hebrew scriptures that can give you a moral foundation, understanding of these things that you may not otherwise have. So, I certainly will enjoy interjecting some of this from time to time. But look, it's all good. So, anyway, that's kind of what I'm about and where I've come to so far with my thoughts on drawing comics and what kind of comics I want to produce. And I think the easiest way to say it is to say that my comic books are adding, they're going in the direction of becoming something that's family friendly, so everybody in the family can enjoy it. You don't have to hide the comic book from your kid, or tell them, oh, you're too little to read this, makes you bigger. Or something that they can do anything else. They can share it now, so they can enjoy it now. So anyway, just some random thoughts, and I'm going to close out and just tell you that you can actually follow me on my website. And you go there, you do the YouTube channel that you're watching this on now. You can also, I have a group on Facebook called Comics and Torah, and it's a group of people who enjoy learning about the Hebrew Bible, enjoy drawing comics. Other groups that are just about comics. I'm part of the Legion of Superheroes group, which I kind of enjoyed. So it was a blast to pass. But I am trying to get my Patreon in order. If you have suggestions on the kinds of merchandise or incentives or whatever that you'd like to see, let me know. And I'll see what I can do. Maybe some of the things that you request me to do, or maybe something that will happen down the road. So anyway, I'm just kind of babbling on at this point, and I don't want to do that. I want to leave on a good note. And as you can see here, using kind of an abbreviated Loomis method for all my drawings, my head drawings. And look more. You can come and see me on Patreon. It's New Hero Comics. Hello, Penrod. Your comics, you just go to Patreon. I'll try to put some links in the description below in the you know in the for YouTube, and that'll help you find those locations and help you enjoy this whole thing. Um, I've enjoyed this time at Cathartic. The things I've been thinking about for a while, and I'm glad that I've come in here and been able to share with you guys and help you enjoy it and help you follow and subscribe. Hit the bell so that whenever I come on, when I do, you'll show up, and we'll be able to talk more in the future. I'm going to work on getting my streaming set up so that it's easier for me to interact and see you guys. And one of the problems I have, I have like two computer screens. I only have one computer screen, so I have to kind of go back and forth in hopes of seeing people show up. And I haven't done it all this time. Usually I'm pretty good about that, but this time I haven't even tried to go back and see if anybody's on. I apologize for that. I just got involved in talking and going. But I'll try to put together some money and have maybe buy a second computer screen so I can set that up or do something with my streaming. Uh, Probably if anybody knows anyone who's good with the streaming services, they can help me figure it out. That would be help. But otherwise, hey, have a great day. This is Tuesday, June 26th. We're almost out of June into July, and everybody have nothing but good and Simca, enjoy, and we'll see each other at the start of the show very, very soon. All right, bye bye.